Hey, welcome back to the Zombie Tactics channel today, another GunFu installment. Talking today about a gun handling technique that gets taught in a lot of schools, tactical response being among them. I think there are a few others that do as well. That is of some controversy. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Springfield XD40 since I just finished doing the video that you probably watched previous to this one, the press check on this gun here. And here's a little bit what this controversy goes like. You have your gun and you've identified your target. It doesn't matter for our purposes why you're firing the gun, but you bam, 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 and most modern semi-automatic pistols have a feature called slide lockback, where what happens is when you've fired the last round, part of the magazine will activate a catch that will catch the slide, and it will now lock back into this position. And so because of that, you know, oh, damn it, I'm out of bullets, and I've got to put another magazine in here, and then I've got to rack that slide, or I've got to drop it using the slide catch or the slide release, if that's the feature that's designed to operate as on your gun. Put that awkwardly. If it's a slide release, you use it as a slide release. And now the gun's loaded and we're ready to start going blammo again. Some controversy, though, about what happens during what we usually call a tactical reload. When you have an opportunity, you've fired your gun some, bam, 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 bam. You don't know how many rounds you have in the gun, and now you're going to reload it and you're going to top it off. Well, some schools will teach you just, well, the slide's down. Obviously, there's not a problem with the gun. So you put the magazine in the gun, and you're ready to fire, and you say, boom, oh, click. What happened? Well, that can happen. Obviously, if that happens, it's just a simple tap, whack, bang. And I'm not going to do the bang part because this is a loaded gun right now, pointed in a pretty doggone safe direction. It'll hit lots of cinder block before it hits anything else. Go ahead and get rid of that one right now. And therein lies the rub. Because some schools will teach you that, like, well, you're not locked back. The slide is forward. Whenever you put a fresh magazine in that gun, go ahead and rack it to make sure that there's one in there. Now, if there is one already in there, what you just did is you just burned a round, like I just burned one there. And people will say, well, that's stupid. You just wasted a round of ammunition. Here's what I've observed in a recent training that I was a part of, and it was kind of an eye-opener for me, and I'll be doing a review of that training pretty soon. But you kind of got to think of this in a certain context. This is a mechanical device, and mechanical devices do fail. And there isn't anything to say that that slide lockback feature is as highly reliable as some people would want it to be, or think it is. Now, I've experienced this once or twice, the idea that, like, I'm firing the gun and the slide returns on an empty chamber. I've actually fired all my rounds, and there's an empty chamber. Boom. And I haven't tried to shoot it again, so I don't know that it's an empty chamber yet. Only a couple of times myself over thousands of rounds of firing my various weapons. And it's not a question of which gun it is. I've had that problem happen with the Glock. I've had it happen with my Ruger SR9, maybe one other. And you kind of get the impression that, like, well, this is a really, really rare thing. It hardly ever happens. So should I base my technique on something that hardly ever happens, which is the slide returning on an empty chamber? Or should I base it on the idea that, like, no, this is reliable, my gun's in good shape, blah, 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 I can trust it, so don't burn that round. Just pop the magazine in there and you're ready to go because we'll think that there's already one in there. Some people will also say things like, well, you've got a loaded chamber indicator on that Springfield, or you've got a loaded chamber indicator on a Glock that you can feel the ejector on the side, or on a Ruger you can, see the big honking loaded chamber indicator stick up. Well, I don't trust that necessarily. That's just kind of like a little extra thing that may or may not help me do something stupid, or keep me from doing something stupid. But I don't trust that. The class that I was just in, though, which I assisted in, I guess you could say I assisted in the instruction of that class. I didn't instruct anybody anything. I operated as a range safety officer to make sure people weren't doing stupid things with their muzzles, or putting their finger in the trigger when it's not supposed to be there. But the first couple of people that I'm monitoring here in this class one gentleman had a Beretta 92 FS. And for whatever reason, when he was just firing it normally, there was no problem with it. The slide would lock back. But the minute we got into any kind of a time trial, any kind of a stress situation, boom, his thumb would ride that slide release. And every single time he would shoot the thing till the magazine was empty, and it would return on an empty slide, on an empty chamber. So relying on that slide to be the determiner of whether the gun has one more round in it or not was not a good idea for him. I would think even after he begins working with that gun more carefully to make sure that he's not riding that slide release accidentally when he gets under stress. And I thought, okay, well, that's the Beretta, and that's that one guy, no big thing. I've seen it again. That's a little data point I'll make note of. Some people this is going to be an issue with, some people it's not. However, it didn't stop there. During the course of a 2-day training with 32 people on the line, and we're rotating through our little crew of range safety officers, we're rotating through different groups of people that we're monitoring, so we get a different set of eyes on different groups of people. I saw no less than 6 or 7 instances of a gun or a person who had the issue of the slide coming back on an empty chamber after the last round was fired. So this to me was an eye-opener. It's the kind of thing you're not going to see unless you're in a situation where you're seeing a lot of people fire a lot of guns. And this was in a training over 2 days with a whole bunch of people who know what they're doing with guns. Lots of sheriffs, lots of SWAT cops, lots of ordinary police officers. I think there was one FBI agent here. People who know their way around guns, including other handgun instructors who were in this course. And this is happening over and over. And I have to say to myself, well, that's the ones I saw. I saw 5, 6, 7 instances of this happening, of it returning on an empty chamber. And so I asked some of the other RSOs, the other range safety officers, hey, have you seen any of that happening this weekend? And 2 or 3 of them piped up and said, yeah, I saw that happen with so-and-so's gun a couple of times. Yeah, I saw that happen with so-and-so over there. He kept doing this. Oh, yeah, and another guy confirmed the thing with the Beretta. So I have to say that with a group of 32 people in this class over the course of a couple of days of not really stressful exercises, we probably had no less than 10, 12 incidences is not a word, instances of a slide returning on an empty chamber. And so for this reason, it's been an eye-opener for me, and for me, it's no longer a matter of controversy. When that if I bam, 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 and I think I need to reload, it doesn't matter whether that slide is returned all the way forward or not. Every single time, that is going to get racked. And because that way now I know that there's one in there, and there really is one in there. And it doesn't matter if there is actually one in there. If I'm in the middle of a situation where I've got to defend my life and I've got to reload that gun, and I've got a little bit of a lull in the action, as they say, where I might get a fresh magazine in there and top it off, it is far better to me to make sure that there's one in there, even if I burn a round out like I just did now. Far more important to make sure that there's one in the chamber so it goes bang when I pull the trigger. And if I pull the trigger now, it would go bang because there's one in there. Far more important to me to make sure that there is one in the chamber than it is to rely on a function of guns which I now think is not reliable enough to count on 100%. So hopefully a little insight into some controversy about gun handling there. That's Zombie Tactics for today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.